Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Roy's Tie-Dye Sci-Fi Corner. This is episode number 252, and we are talking about the Eagle Obsession, and I want to welcome a very special guest. He is a producer, a writer, director, and he is my friend, Mr. Jeffrey Morris. Jeffrey, welcome.
Hey, Roy. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, Jeffrey. Thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah,
Good
absolutely.
to see you.
Yeah.
And how you doing tonight? All right?
I'm good. Just, been working away on the film and keeping things moving and everything. But yeah, interesting times we live in, but getting things done. So
Yeah, no, I hear you. And so glad we can connect on this Sunday evening and on January 26th. And it's really hard to believe that we're actually at the tail end of January already. It feels like we just went into the new year.
Oh, I agree. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah.
We
So
we were
yeah.
just talking about all the cold weather that we had and we've been experiencing. I thought we had it really rough here in New Jersey. And just to find out that you actually pretty much really got hit with the cold weather in Minnesota.
Yeah,
So
we had some double digit below zero Fahrenheit. We had one night it was like 21 below. So yeah, we had a rough week last week, but it's good. We're all good now. So
that's good.
Yeah.
I guess we have no reason to complain in New Jersey then.
Yeah. No, I get it, but no, it's all relative. So yeah,
It is.
So it's here we are in the year of the 50th anniversary of 1999, which is kind of cool to be a part of. And we finished all the filming for the Eagle Obsession back in December. We did a lot of we actually had Todd Morton and Jan Venneberg both came up to Minnesota, and we were able to shoot some practical visual effects and also a final sequence with them, which was really cool. And but we all told we shot about 40 hours of footage and all kinds of crazy stuff. Yeah, over the last 2 years, getting this film in the can, and it was a lot of work. 10 locations, and it's been interesting. So
yeah, it's definitely been a journey. That's to say the least.
Yeah.
Before I go on, Jeffrey, I just want to welcome some of the folks that are joining us out there that are actually commenting. I see Randy Lee is joining us from Wisconsin. He's saying good evening.
Hey, Randy.
Yeah. I see Missy is joining us from Texas, and she's saying hi. And I see John is out there as well. Hey, John. And he's also joining us from Minnesota. And then also May is also out there, and she's joining us from Canada. So I want to say hi to them as well. And let me see here. Randy said, I found 3 large Eagle transporters at a hobby shop today. I was pretty surprised, to say the least.
I saw your post, Randy. Thank you for sharing that with me. It's pretty cool. Yeah.
Want to say hi to Lou. Lou is joining us from Rhode Island. Welcome, Lou.
Hey, Lou.
And I think I got everybody accounted for as far as comments. So we'll definitely go back and forth as we venture on.
Sure.
So yeah, what you were just saying, Jeffrey, in regards to the footage, and then the fact that it's been over 2 years that in regards to the filming starting, and it's that in itself is pretty incredible. But I just want to say hi to Ruby. Ruby's out there as well too, joining us. In regards to that, it's a process for making a film. I mean, it's not something that happens overnight, and that's definitely evident with everything, right?
Documentaries are a special animal. Like with normal feature films, you don't usually go until you get the money. You have everything set up. You have the money. You may have distribution in place. You have things kind of figured out. With a narrative film, and in the case of documentaries, quite often it's not the same. It's like the project kind of grows and expands as time goes on, or you might develop a new direction and go, oh, well, we should try to do this, or we should try to do that. And what'll happen is you really kind of fund it as you go, and it's a big challenge to do it that way, but it's just kind of the documentary world, So, and I'd never made a documentary before, but it's been a lot of fun and certainly interesting, very challenging, but I have enjoyed the process. So yeah.
With that said, do you think you would do other documentaries in the future? Is that something you'd want to explore?
Oh, for sure. I mean, obviously, my heart is in making narrative movies. That's sci-fi films, but I'm definitely open to the idea of doing more docs. I think it could be a lot of fun. I think there's some definite topics that are worth covering and I think the Eagle Obsession is going to open up some doors for this kind of nostalgic sci-fi filmmaking and that sort of thing too. So,
Right.
mhm.
I just want to share. Sherry just commented. She said, "Hey guys, can't believe this has been in the works for 2 years. Wow, can't wait to see it."
Yeah, yeah.
And Mike is joining us and said, "Hi Jeffrey, so sorry I didn't greet you in Calgary. Didn't realize your full cosmic significance."
I do remember you, Micah. I do remember you. So yeah, yeah, it's seeing you and everything. So no, we've been connected since. It's all good. That's great. No, I appreciate it. So, yeah.
So with that, I just want to definitely share different slides that I have in regards to the Eagle obsession, and just put them out there, and just kind of give a journey of the process and everything, and in regards to the film. And really, this is a personal journey. The Eagle is the vehicle. I mean, it really connects with going back to the 1960s to the 1970s in regards to the NASA space program, the
Yep.
fascination, the dreams of,
Well, wait, I'm going to stop you there for a second. You might want to tell everyone you've actually had the privilege of you've been able to see some of the film. I let you see.
Yes.
You've seen like the first quarter of the movie actually completed. So you may want to give some. It's what the reason why I interrupted you is like I'm like, wow, he gets it. It's like I think seeing that really helped you to understand what we're doing with the film. And I know there've been a lot of questions from people out there like, what is this movie? What's it going to be? What are you trying to do? And we spent the last couple of months. We started editing in earnest at the end of October, and we've really pulled it all together. So you've seen the first part of the film, which was really fun for me to share with you. So
No, which I very much appreciated, and that was just within the last few days. So yeah, so I'll definitely piggyback off of that and kind of go
yeah,
back and do like a quick rewind.
yeah,
So in regards to that, yes, Jeffrey had given me the opportunity to see, I think it was about 22, 23 minutes of the film. And in regards to that, this is not a movie just about the Eagle transporter. This is a journey. This is the impact that the Eagle had on yourself, and then not only you as a person, but then also other people throughout the world. And
mhm,
it's with you traveling to meet with these people, seeing how they were inspired, see how they were affected. And
mhm.
it is pretty amazing, because when you're thinking back in terms of that, growing up in being born in the late 60s, growing
Right.
up in the 70s,
Mhm.
we were experiencing man going to the moon, at least the
Right.
tail end of it, and how that really affected us, had an impact on us in so many ways. But
Mhm.
what you're able to do is through this film, through this documentary, you're able to explore how that affected different individuals. And it's not only like individuals, again, it's worldwide. So,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
which is,
And it also gets a little bit. We do. I because it's a personal journey. I have to talk about sort of other influence. Like I queue up Space 1999 by talking about NASA and Apollo because that's just part of my journey. Like I would not have cared about Space 1999 as much as I did if I had not been such a big space enthusiast in terms of what they were really doing. Right. So that for 1999 to come out in 1975, the Apollo missions ended in 72. But then they had Skylab, which happened right after. I followed that avidly, and even though I was a little kid, I was into this stuff, and I was checking out the books on it, and I could read, and I was into it. It's like I knew the names of the astronauts, I knew all the stuff about it. So Space 1999 was this really super exciting, sort of almost explosive um, element in my life because it was like, whoa, this is a show it's like a weekly TV show that takes place on the moon on a moon base. And that also showcases this vehicle that looks like a direct descendant of this other spaceship, this real life spaceship that I fell in love with, right? So that's a big part of this. But part of this journey we've had, it's really important to me that people know about the Apollo missions, their impact, and about how movies like 2001: A Space Odyssey, which because I don't think you would have had a Space 1999 without a 2001.
I
And
agree.
we
Yeah.
talk about that. You wouldn't have had a Space 1999 without a Star Trek. And and while I know that I've had this kind of surprising reaction, I didn't realize kind of I think there are a lot of people like you and me who really, really like both. We like both. Well, I'm looking at your background. You got Eagles and you got the Enterprise. I'm the same guy, right? I love Star Trek and Space 1999, the original Star Trek. And so it was kind of like, as a matter of fact, the TV station that used to show it down in Illinois, where I saw it when I was a kid, they actually carried Star Trek and Space 1999 back to back. They would play them in a 2-hour block, And so for us, that was like, yeah, so the fact that this documentary, it is going to talk a little bit about the influence of the Enterprise and Star Trek and how all that was part of what led to this love of the Eagle as well. It's all connected for me.
So. Yeah, it's definitely a bridge. And to your point, I remember Channel 11 out of New York City, 6 o'clock on Saturday nights, it was Star Trek. 7 o'clock, it was Space 1999. They were like back to back as far as being shown.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No.
I want to say hi to a couple other folks that are joining us. I see Bill Attenberg is joining us from Canada. Hey, Bill, thanks for joining. And Nancy's also joining us from Canada. Hey, Nancy.
Hey, Nancy.
And oops, I was trying to see. Randy said, my son expressed an interest in building one of them with me. Much of my youth was spent building sci-fi models. Yeah, there's that other connection.
Well, Randy, you're going to see Roy has seen it now, but when you see the documentary, there's actually a sequence that's it's animation where I recreate my childhood. And there's actually a sequence in there where I show me with my father building models from when I was a kid, and building models of like the Enterprise and the Galileo shuttle and things that we really built when I was a kid. So yeah, it's super important to talk about how this interconnects with the generations. And in the documentary, I actually was able to work with a group of 5th graders from nowadays. They're all between the ages of 10, 11 years old, that kind of thing. And those kids, they loved the Eagle, and I gave them all a model kit of the Eagle, 12-inch model by the time, the 14-inch model at the end of the thing. So it's you're going to see that in the movie too, which is pretty fun.
Yeah, and that's really cool because it's like the next generation, really, or they're the next generation, so to speak, when you think about it, and how they really react to that, and it definitely resonates and comes through. Randy also said, Jeffrey, I watched Space 1999 on a station out of Eau Claire, Wisconsin, not far from you.
Yeah, cool.
But and then going on in regards to the different folks that you are actually meeting with, well, in the one slide I just actually had.
Yeah.
I mean,
so this is the I shared with you sort of the deck we use to sort of share with potential partners, investors in the project. So so this is one of the things I wanted to do early in the deck, was have people be able to see the scale of what we did. So that's me with Jan Vinneberg when I went to visit him in Denmark, and which is really a wonderful, unforgettable experience for me, going there and seeing the scale and helping him put it together and everything. And then like I said, we bookended by bringing him to the States, which was really fun. So that was part of it too. Yeah.
It's amazing that he was able to build something like that too.
Yeah, I know. And, it wasn't completely finished when we shot that there, but I actually sent the crew back last summer and we got footage of it in his yard, actually the final painted version and everything. So we have amazing drone shots and it's huge, it's really going to be neat. So, yeah.
Yeah. And Nancy's commenting saying Jan's Eagle is amazing. What a build.
Yep.
And then also, can't go any further with, I have to include Mr. Nick Tate, Alan Carter.
Yeah. Well, as you saw, I did a really wonderful, super heartfelt interview with Nick that was shot at Wonderfest.
Yeah.
And that's another example in the film we're going to be able to book in. So that's in Act 1 of the movie. You'll see me with interviewing him. And we talk about how Nick, Alan Carter was a big hero of mine as a child. And we go from that and we really focus on Alan. We focus on Alan and what it was like for him, Nick to play the character. And it's actually quite funny. You've seen it. It's actually a very funny interview. And then, but then we have the bookend of bringing him into the cockpit and having shooting scenes of me and him in there where I rebuilt the Eagle cockpit in England, which is pretty darn cool. So that's a neat book. I think it'll be very emotional to have those two, interconnected.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, again, it's resonating through, and you're looking at the 50-year history with that, and the connection with, obviously with Space 1999, and then you're meeting your icon. I mean, a childhood hero. Yes. And I have to say that, Nick really the character of Alan Carter, I think a lot of us, had looked up to him as one of our heroes. I mean, for me, he was he was one of my favorite characters on Space 1999,
Oh,
and just
yeah,
like just like with Captain Kirk being for Star Trek. And I know different folks have different heroes, but for me, it was Alan Carter.
oh yeah, Alan was my favorite. Followed by Victor. But yeah, I really thought Alan was cool, and he just had this great energy to him, this
Mhm.
swagger, and but he was also pretty laid back, and he was courageous. But what a great role model, what a
Yeah.
great character. So so that's something we get heavy into in the film is that sort of thing so which is fun. So yeah, what was the next slide? Let's see.
Okay, and the next slide is at Wonderfest, and then also where you're with Todd Morton.
Yeah, yep. I shot with Todd in Indiana, which was really great. And then also Bill George. We shot with Bill at in San Francisco, and he actually his 88-inch Eagle that he built for his sci-fi air show. We do an incredible conversation about that, where Bill and I are that conversation that I shot in San Francisco is really where you learn all about the Eagle, and you learn all about what was it and how did it function and what was it like in space, that kind of thing. So that was a lot of fun and everything. I mean, I'll take 2 seconds to kind of take you guys through like what the film basically does, like from a flow. It's like the first part of the film, we really I try to set everything up. So I set up just what was the time period like, late 60s, early 70s, and that's an interview I do with Kevin Anderson, the Dune author. And then we go from that. He kind of segues us to Space 1999, and then you saw that I did a really serious overview about what was Space 1999, and it's a lot of fun. There's a cool behind the scenes montage. We have all kinds of shots and scenes of them making the show, and gives you a background on Martin Landau, Barbara Bain, the whole thing. So because a big part of this film for me is making sure that people who have absolutely never heard of Space 1999, which may be a shock to the people on this podcast, listening to this podcast, but when I'm out in the world, I'm pretty surprised. I run into people who are like, oh, I have more people go, you know what? I remember that ship, right? Or I remember those commercials. I remember that. But the show itself, it's interesting. It's like kind of either you really know it or you don't. There's a lot of, you know what I mean? There's a lot of people who,
there's no in between with that.
What was that? Yeah, there's no real in between. No, it's like there's, and I'm out talking to people. They're like, I've never heard of this. I don't know this, and then, but there are also people who are like, I've never heard of this, but I remember that ship.
Right.
It's very interesting, right? So, so getting back to my point is that it's been important to me to make this film so that it could be for audiences who have never heard of this ever. That's the whole idea, So that's and so we're really trying to set the stage and explain it as a concept, and as a cool idea, so they can kind of get into it. And I think we pull it off. So
yeah, Randy's even is commenting too. He's saying nobody in my circle remembers Space 1999. I need a better circle. No, but it's true though. And again, and we've talked about this on previous shows too, Jeffrey. It's just that time period of the 1970s was very unique for us, and it's something that really it doesn't exist now. Granted, we are trying to venture back into space. We're trying to do other things. There's plans to try to go, to eventually, maybe get to Mars. But there was something about the era of, experiencing that, especially being, we were very young at that time, and looking forward to hearing those moments on the television that, what, they're going to land on the moon again. It's
yeah.
I mean, it was an excitement about it.
I feel like there's no way to really replicate or explain. I mean, I think that the closest thing that maybe has happened recently is when, for young people, was when the SpaceX rocket was captured by the gantry, when it flew in and it captured it, right? I think there were a lot of people around the world who were like, whoa, that was really something, but even that it pales in comparison to when they were landing on the moon and then up there for several days and driving around in a rover and doing experiments and talking about all this stuff and hearing the chatter between them and Mission Control. And, there was for people to remember, there was only we only had like three major TV
Yeah.
networks, not news, three major TV networks. That's it, right? And all three of them would talk about this and cover it.
Yep.
And so it was a big deal culturally. And so I think for us as little kids, if we were paying attention, it was like, whoa, this is a huge deal. It was like, to some degree, it almost felt like the culture was almost stopping to witness this and experience it. It was really something. So yeah. And the other thing too, I can't stress enough how much both the astronauts and these characters and these things, I mean, this stuff really resonated for those of us who paid attention. These were real heroes. These were real role models. They were pushing the envelope. They were exploring. They were, we were at a new place, a new peak, I think, as humans at that point, and nothing against the space shuttle and the ISS and the things that have come after, but how many people can name astronauts now, right? Or remember what they're doing or whatever it is. Back then, it was like, these guys, people knew who they were. People paid attention, And so, and I think what this depresses me, and we do get into it in the documentary, is the fact that, like, if that ball kind of hadn't been dropped, where it would be now, where would we be if that had just kind of kept going, right? If that, having those sort of role models both in the real world and in science fiction, right? Those things, a lot of the technology, a lot of the advancements we have nowadays, people don't realize that goes back to those days,
Oh, and we hear about it constantly. I mean, especially with, and I'm going to pull Star Trek into the mix here, in regards to like the iPads, the communicators with the flip phones. I mean, that's just one example. You have the tapes that the recordings that are essentially are on the it's almost like a disc. Those are just different examples of that. Shari's saying, I had never heard of Space 1999 until I met Roy. Good thing I met him. Missy is saying,
you spelled it right. That yes, it's you. Walter Cronkite specifically is what I think about was that time period. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, sorry, Jeffrey. Sorry.
Oh,
had an internet issue there. Well, I'm back. Missy is saying, one of my earliest memories is of Walter Cronkite and him having one of the models of the ship going to the moon and taking it apart and explaining what was going on in black and white TV.
That's exactly what I'm talking about, is Walter Cronkite. And there was a guy on, I believe, ABC named Jules Bergman who would talk about the space mission. But Walter Cronkite was my guy. It was like, man, and like they, totally having models and going, and this was the command module which the astronauts are transferring from the, it was so cool. Voice. Yeah, it was really cool. And I mean, I have to be honest, I miss those days. There was something happening there, man. And so that's the Eagle becomes the vehicle to get us to talk about all that. That's what this movie is all about. But yet by the same token, there's a ton of great stuff if you're a fan. Right. You get to see Nick Tate. You get to see Brian Johnson. You get to meet Barbara Bain. I'm trying to think of other really cool things we have in this that are really for the fans.
Well, you mentioned Bill George. I mean, he worked with ILM, right? And especially effects designer. I mean, Kevin J. Anderson, who involved with Dune and a personal friend of yours. I mean, there are so many outlets and so many connections and so much inspiration. Your childhood friend that was influenced by the series by Barbara Bain and went into going into the science. Yeah, I mean, the influence there. So there were so many connections. How the show,
the emotion that happens when I introduce her to Barbara Bain is huge, because Barbara Bain's like, she's met lots of fans. She meets fans, but for her to actually sit down, and we had lunch, me and her and Barbara, my friend Anna. And, Anna and I used to be friends. We were friends way back from kindergarten. So we were both like 4 or 5 years old, But when we used to play spaceship on the playground, me and Anna, and her mother actually got mad because Anna kept ruining all of her sandals because she was running around out of but Anna and Anna, we would play. We started with Lost in Space, then evolved from Lost in Space to Star Trek, and evolved from Star Trek to Space 1999. But the point was, Anna watched Space 1999 and seeing Dr. Russell inspired her to say, hey, you know what? I could grow up to be a scientist. I could grow up to be a doctor type, and she did. And so when we get together with Barbara Bain, it ends up, you'll see Barbara's moved to tears by meeting a woman who is now in a career as a PhD, who is creating all kinds of amazing science,
right?
Who was inspired as a little girl watching a TV show. I mean, that's a big deal to do that. And so that's a big part of what happens in this as well. So yes, the Eagle's there, and yes, the Eagle's part of it, but it's all about taking us to all these other cool things, including I do an amazing interview with William Shatner on the recreation of the Star Trek sets, which is really cool. So yeah.
Yeah, literally and figuratively, it is a vehicle that is transporting you to meet with the different individuals and to have those discussions.
Yes. Yep.
I want to say hi to Andrew. He's joining us from Australia. Hey, Andrew. And he's saying, hey, guys, Space 1999 is still my favorite sci-fi show of all time. I absolutely love the Eagle Transporter. Can't wait for the documentary.
Absolutely.
And Randy's also commenting, said, my kid told me that his astronomy teacher mentioned Space 1999 in class. He was excited to come home and tell me.
That's cool. That's cool. That's really cool. We'll have to, maybe we can get a copy of this eventually over to that school so they can see it. That'd be cool.
Yeah, that would definitely be cool. And in regards to the, and I'm just going to kind of backtrack a little bit too, because actually, let me share another slide here just to put that up. Now, there's a photo of you when you were very young, right?
Yes. Yep. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So that picture of me is that is the age when I was first getting into Apollo. I know I was a little kid, but I got it. I was into it, So, and it's, and so this is a big part of the story here is to go from, they're literally visual effects shots. And I'm going to show you guys some things that people have never seen before, but there's actually effect shots we did for this film where we have the Eagle and the lunar module flying together in space. You get to see that in this film, which is pretty cool. I couldn't have imagined that when I was a little kid. I'm pretty excited about that. So, yeah. And then also we talk a lot about the Mattel Eagle, but again, I get into it. This documentary is not going to go and tell you about it. It was manufactured at this place with this and this, sold this many units and blah blah blah. No, it's more like, hey, I got a Mattel Eagle, and this is why it was such a big deal for me and so many other young people. That's what this is. It's emotional, So
yeah, well, and we've talked about this before, but the Christmas of 1976 was huge when that Mattel Eagle came out, and again, this is an example, and this is what's being felt through your journey, how it impacted so many people that had received one. I want to say quickly hi to Jenny. Jenny's also joining us from Australia. Welcome, Jenny. Thanks for being out there.
Hey, Jenny.
And I know it's tomorrow. Today is tomorrow, literally. And
that's
also
the episode of Star Trek. Today is tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow is yesterday.
Yeah,
a favorite. And then also, again, we were just talking about some of the folks that are in the movie. You interviewed Jamie Anderson, Kevin J. Anderson, Barbara Bain. Now we're talking about Apollo astronauts, Charles Duke. I mean, that had to be an emotional experience. I know it was.
Yeah, I mean, it's me and a guy who walked on the moon, and NASA gave us access to the entire visitor center, the Kennedy Space Center visitor complex. So literally, we have a Saturn V rocket there, full scale Saturn V rocket, and it's literally just me and Charles Duke, from Apollo 16. And we do this amazing interview and conversation. And the rapport he and I had was awesome. And we got along super well. I think he really dug it because I knew I could talk to him about the tech. I could talk to him about the mission parameters and all that stuff. So we just had it. And the thing that I love about the interview is that he actually goes into a lot of things about what it was like going that I haven't heard a lot of the astronauts talk about. He actually talks about being afraid up there and how fragile the spaceship was. And
sure.
He's not like, yeah, it was awesome. It was great. He's like, man, I didn't know if it was going to hold together, So,
and to be fair, that, and then I'll come back to the list. Think about it. I mean, and here's another thing too. We had actually humankind, had just really in the 20th century began to fly. So when you think about with the Wright brothers going to, in 1969 with the first man going to the moon.
60 years.
Yeah.
60 years.
And now,
you go from the first powered flight to walking on the moon. That's an incredible leap. Incredible leap. Yeah. Yeah.
exactly.
And the thing I want to add just real quick is we were around for that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And there was, I just really, again, I get back to, this was a period in human history unlike any other. And we were children then.
Right.
And that's what I think is a story worth telling. We were children then. And so I have to believe that people like yourself, and I know for myself that Space 1999 was part of that. It germinated from that soil. You know what I mean? It existed because of the energy, the zeitgeist of that time period.
Right.
You know? Yeah. Yeah. So.
And the influence it had, whether it be individuals with their careers or just, social situations or, hobbies, just, different outlets. It's something that really expanded in so many different ways, but it's a lasting impact. And
Absolutely.
that is unfolded in the story that you're telling as you're meeting these different people that had similar experiences. That's the connection. That's the bridge.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Jenny's saying, wow, what an amazing experience.
Yeah.
Martin is joining us from New York. Welcome, Martin. Good to see you out there as well, too. And just going back real quick, Brandy said a note from my kid. She said, ending of Interstellar was confusing at the end of Space 1999.
Yeah, well, I'm not the guy to go. The one thing about this is I'm going to queue up Space 1999 as an idea of it. It's a show. But once we get going with the Eagle and everything else, we don't really talk about Space 1999 too much more. We don't really ever talk about the story of Space 1999 or the episodes or things like that. We did do a segment at some point. We might, I think we could do an expanded version of this documentary that either ends up being a lot longer, that has these full interviews, some of the stuff, or we do like an online resource where we're able to put up full interviews. Like, for example, Bill George and I, we do a deep dive into Dragon's Domain. But it just wouldn't, like, mainstream people who have never heard of Space 1999, if it's on Netflix, they're gonna be like, what are they talking about? Right. You know what I mean? Right. But honestly, for the fans, the Dragon's Domain section is really cool. So I'm hoping that we can take some of those bits and pieces, and, like, for example, Barbara Bain, you'll like this, like Death's Other Dominion. She actually talks to me about how gross it was when Dr. Rowland dies, his dead body thing that they did. She said that part of her reaction in that was not fake, because it was so gross what they had made, and it smelled horrible. And she said it was just an awful experience having to film that sequence. So that's the kind of stuff that's not going to make it into the actual film itself, but it exists, and it's here, and we have footage, in that 40 hours that I talked about earlier. And I think that there could be a format where we put together longer interviews or excerpts from the interviews and things that I think would appeal to the fans, and everything. So I'm not going to forget the fans, but I also hope the fans will bear with us and realize that this is all about reaching millions and millions of people who have never heard of it.
I totally understand that. Yeah. Nancy said, while only on for 2 seasons, Space 1999 felt like a huge part of my childhood.
Sure.
Yeah. And let me go back here. Just hold on one second. Okay, and I just mentioned about Charles Duke, Bill George, again, the visual effects supervisor, and you're just talking about his, the discussion that you had with him about Dragon's Domain. Brian Johnson, my goodness, visual effects.
We have a wonderful interview I did with Brian. It's super cool. You guys are going to love it. It's very heartfelt, very cool. Brian talks a lot about how he came up with the Eagle, and I talked to him about the impact it's had. And we're going to do some really neat, we're interspersing it with some cool effect shots that I'm creating that create like schematics of the Eagle. So as Brian's talking about it, you're going to get to fly around the Eagle and see these things that he's talking about and how it works. It's really, I have this wonderful animator out of the UK who's doing it for us. It's going to be super cool. So
very cool. Also, you have Todd Morton. Todd was interviewed and going over everything in regards to Space 99 props and ships and his collections, how it influenced him as far as a collector. And then again, Jan Warrenberg, again, how it influenced him with his build of the Eagle.
Yeah.
So very, very cool.
Yeah. And then who's next? Let's see.
Now, and then of course the Star Trek connection,
Yes.
and we've talked about this. Some folks might not get the Star Trek connection, but there of course there's the Star Trek connection, because again, if there wasn't Star Trek Space 1999, there wouldn't have been that influence. I mean, and they kind of go hand in hand. But more importantly, this is when you're talking about your journey and everything, the Enterprise definitely had an influence as far as the to you personally, just like the Eagle had an influence in
Oh yeah,
regards
no,
to.
it did. I mean, it's like I said, when people see this, they'll get it. It's like it's not about denying anything from 1999 or the Eagle. It's about saying this is the time.
Yep.
At the time, this was incredibly impactful.
Yeah.
And there was, because and in some ways, one of the things I want to talk about is the fact that I was into 1999. Personally, I liked it more than Star Trek at the time. And the reason why was because 1999 was in my lifetime, right? And I know that like Star Trek was supposed to be like 200 or 300 years in the future, right? So I'm like, well, I probably won't be around for that, barring some major medical advancement that allows me to be here, right? But 1999, I'll be 32. Okay, wait, so I could be Alan Carter, right? I could be flying whatever the equivalent is for an Eagle when we have a moon base. I could be up there, right? And so, but again, Star Trek and those they connect, And I really, and I think you've seen the first part of you've seen a quarter of it, and there's always, we keep referencing back to 2001 in Star Trek as we build the story of the time in this. So I think it's going to feel really interesting. And I know for a lot of the mainstream audience, they're going to go, oh, okay, I do know this. This is interesting. And then what'll happen is they'll go, okay, I know this. I know Shatner, but wait a minute. So you're telling me you like this, but you actually like this other thing more than you like that. I want to hear more about that.
Right.
Right. I mean, that's going to be what happens. So, and then Shatner and I had this incredible conversation. I think you were present for, at least you were around, you were there that day.
I was there that day. Yeah, I was. Yeah. No, in regards to William Shatner, I mean, he's very deep. He asks questions.
He asked me questions.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
it's not just a matter of fact. I mean, he wants to know why things happen, why things, are the way they are. If anybody's had the opportunity to see his documentary, that definitely comes through in what he presented in that. He definitely is he's a very thought-provoking, very deep individual. And the fact that you actually were able to connect with him on that level, and especially, like I'll say, in his home, I mean, on the bridge of the Enterprise.
Oh, I know.
It was so appropriate.
To blow people away. And the conversation he and I have is super deep. And it's like, it's crazy, the conversation Shatner and I have. And I had people coming up to me after going like, I had no idea. They were just, the people who were present in the room when I did the interview were blown away. So it mattered what we did. And I can't wait to share that with people. And I think that's, again, it's part of the whole picture here, what we're going to talk about, So yeah, I'm super excited about it. But what was next on there? Let's see. The
technology. And
yeah, we're talking about technology. We talk about, so those are images of us rebuilding the cockpit in there. Some of that stuff, which is kind of cool, and how being in the cockpit of the Eagle was like a huge deal for me as a child. I couldn't have imagined growing up someday and sitting in the cockpit of that, let alone sitting in the cockpit with Nick Tate. It's crazy. It's insane. So that was a huge, huge opportunity. So, yeah.
And then there's another shot, and there's a shot with you and Nick, aka Alan Carter.
Yep. Which is cool.
And then this is with the fifth graders, with the kids. Now these kids. Now what school again was this? What type of school was this?
In Minnesota. It's called it's University Avenue. It's an aerospace magnet, which the kids are all studying space and rocketry and how airplanes work and those sorts of things, right? So for me to come in and talk to them about the Eagle, it was they loved it. It was right up their alley. And they were like going home watching Space 1999 episodes on YouTube and coming in the next day talking to me about it. And, like I told them like we talked about Dragon's Domain. They're like, well, we're going to watch it. I'm like, well, no, it's kind of scary. They're like, I said, we can't watch it. They're like, no, we're going to watch it. So they all went home. And the next day, they're like, we watched that. I'm like, oh, And stuff. So, but I'm sure it's nothing to them. Things nowadays, people are so desensitized to violence. But I tried to explain to them when we were little kids, Dragon's Domain, that was like mess up your mind. It was like, I mean, that is true. Okay. So as I've talked about over the years, I maybe don't know a lot of people who knew Space 1999, but I've had people say two things. They would go, "Oh, that ship is really cool," or they go, "Do you see that episode with that monster thing? Do you remember that? I saw this show and there was this monster thing that would like suck people in. It was kind of like a car wash." There's this monster, and it would suck people in and shoot their carcass out. It was disgusting. It was so disturbing. I feel like I could make a little mini documentary just about Dragon's Domain. Actually,
you've talked about that and
psychological damage of Dragon's Domain.
I think if you interviewed everybody within our time frame of age, I mean, I have memories of actually going on the side of the television set because my parents were in the other room, and I was like terrified to watch the screen just because of what was going on with that. But when you hear, especially talk to different folks, it's a very similar story, and we've talked about Dragon's Domain in the past too. And it's definitely it's a fan favorite, and it has so much in that episode. It encompasses everything. But that's kind of cool that the kids wanted to see it. And to your point, it's on television today.
Yeah,
there's so much worse.
Mm-hmm.
Martin commented, he said, "I was present at one of the Enterprise Bridge talks by Bill Shatner a year ago."
Oh, cool.
Andrew is saying, "Star Trek started my love for sci-fi, but to me, Space 1999 visuals look more realistic than anything on Star Trek, especially the Eagle. It looked like it could be real."
Oh, no question. And that's, again, that's part of why I like Space 1999 more than Star Trek, because, the Eagle, I'm just going to grab this. Like I have this sitting here. The Eagle had these, right? Yeah. It had these, right? And these literally these and these were parts of, like, I don't know what the Enterprise flew on when I know what in the story, but I'm saying watching the visual effects, it's like, I don't know how that thing flies. This thing, I'm like, okay, I get that.
Right.
That looks like the spaceships that I'm seeing, Walter Cronkite talk about, right? So it was, and then yes, you also had 10 years of visual effects advancement from Star Trek to Space 1999, right?
Of course, so, and that's a long time.
Yeah, it was very, and you had a crew of people from England who were just, all those people who had kind of grown up, doing effects with Derek Meddings and all these super talented effects guys from James Bond 2001, all the Jerry Anderson, Super Marionation stuff, right? So that crew came forward to do Space 1999. It's like, by then, not to mention cutting their teeth on UFO with their initial moon stuff they did there, right? And and how much UFO kind of led to it. So no, I mean, it's a big deal. So yeah.
I want to share John's comment too, going back to the kids. He said the level of passion those kids had for space and science took me back to when we were that age. Yeah. See, that's really cool to hear.
With me when I was for some of it, which was really pretty cool. So yeah.
And May commented and said, "A new generation of alphans, awesome." And Missy's commenting about Dragon's Domain, saying, "Human inhaling, digesting monster."
Yeah. The funny thing is, I think about often like we've got the Mattel Eagle, and we're marketing it to kids, and we've got all these different things. We got all this stuff we're marketing to kids, and then they have this episode that's just not a kid thing. It was just not a kid thing, right? And I'm not saying it should have been a kid show, because I actually was one of those kids that grew up. I preferred watching grown-up stuff when I was a kid to what was targeted for kids, right? I thought that was, but that was far. that episode. Yeah. The other episode, well, you and I talked about this, but what was the one with Baylor?
End of Eternity.
Yeah, End of Eternity. That was another one. That just scared the crap out of me.
Yeah.
Episode,
Force of Life is the other one. I mean,
Life, that's the third one. That's the other one that was really
brilliant episode.
Yeah. I love that episode though. But yeah. So
Nancy's commenting. She said, "I did a photo shoot recently with my Eagle, stun gun, and Comlock. The photographer got excited when I started pulling the Eagles out and thought they were so cool. I had to show the photographer how the Comlock works. She kept trying to get me to hold it up by my ear like a cell phone. Lots of laughs.
You know, it's funny, Nancy, is when we have a sequence in the Eagle Obsession where it's animated, and there's actually a scene in the animation of me and when I was a little kid with two friends, and I actually had the animator. I sent him references of the Comlock. There was like a Comlock walkie-talkie set, and then remember the disc set, the stun gun, the shot plastic discs, right? So I had him use those in the animation with the kids because that's the stuff we had we could play with. But it was so funny because animator, this guy is like he's in his 30s, and he doesn't know the show, so he had the Comlock, and he had them like, I don't know what he was doing with it. He had it like by their ears. He was doing like I was like, no, man, no, it's that, no, it doesn't work like that. No. You know, I had to kind of explain. And so I was like, and so then I went and found all these archive images of them, you know, using the Comlock correctly.
Right.
It's like this, yeah. So, yeah, but that's been fun. That's the other things, like this animator who I've been working with. You know, he's like, oh man, can I get an Eagle? He's like, that thing's so cool. You know, it's been my crew has been really interested in it. You know, so it's just been fun. So yeah.
Well, it's really neat. And hey, Heather, thanks for joining us. She's saying the coolest, Nancy. It's pretty neat too when there's folks that have not experienced it and it's new to them. It's just bringing in a new world, so to speak, for them. Yep. So that there's the fun of that as well too.
Yep.
Going back to the slides, I want to share this one. Now this is really cool because this is almost like you were walking through an alien landscape, and I have another photo that I'll be able to show for that. But
well, see, now that was interesting. Showing that on the TV news, they wanted to go there because there's a big there's a virtual stage here in the Twin Cities that has what they call the XR wall, where we were able to connect it to Unreal Engine and project backgrounds and everything. So we actually it took us many months to build a model of Peary, Planet Peary, and we also built a model of the what else did we do? We did the hangar, the Eagle hangar, underground hangar. So both of those are there. So there are scenes of me on Peary in the movie, and we actually so what you're seeing there is that this CBS came out to talk about the movie, which was really cool. So, and then that interview reverberated, like people picked it up and talked about it, like all around the country. It actually turned into a big viral moment for us. So we've had millions of people hear about the project, and we've been covered in over 230 media outlets, the project. So there's a lot of interest in it, and it's, you know, it's funny. It's like three groups. It's like the people from our age group who remember it, who are excited. There are people who are older who are like, I've never heard of this, but I kind of remember that time. This is interesting. And then there's a new group of young people who are like, this is cool. I've never heard of this, but this is awesome. You know, so yeah, that's been a lot of fun. So, and there's a scene of me and Nick at Wonderfest, and he and I had a great rapport. It was great. So that's really wonderful. And that was right after Nick and I had been in England shooting.
Oh, okay.
Like a couple days after. So yeah.
And then this is with the practical effects, right?
Yes. And so, you know, we did our Kickstarter back in October, November for to do practical effects. And it was like, I kept having people going, well, are you going to do any practical visual effects of this? I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's like I've done computer generated effects for the movie because of the expense, right? It was like, it's like we can do, and I've intentionally done the computer generated effects in a way that were an homage to 50 years ago. I didn't want the effects to feel like they were from nowadays. I wanted them to feel like they were from 50 years ago, but maybe just a little higher in fidelity, right? The idea that we can do things higher resolution,
right?
We can do camera moves that they couldn't do back 50 years ago, all those sorts of things, but don't go turn it into a video game or a Star Wars movie or a contemporary, you know, the kind of stuff they do in Star Trek now. It's like, let's make it feel like from 50 years ago. Let's make it feel good so that people, you know, it feels like for people back in the day, it would make sense. And people now can respect it and still understand it. So
sure.
That's the thing. But people kept saying to me, what about models? Could you do something with miniatures? And I've studied visual effects and miniatures and stuff my whole life. I love miniatures. I think it's an amazing thing to do. And I was like, well, okay, the movie's almost done. The movie's basically shot. So like, I mean, this is like a new ask. And I'm like, but if people are willing to kind of step up and help us fund it, sure, we'll try to do it. So we figured it out, and we came up with a way to shoot. I was able to schedule 2 days, 2 days of shooting, and in that 2 days, I was like, okay, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna look back at how they. We actually had three goals. We were gonna do tabletop environments like the lunar surface. We
Right.
were going to do shots of the Eagles flying in space, and then we were also going to try to do takeoffs and landings and a crash, right? And so the takeoffs and landings, we actually had a plan to actually put these Freon gas cylinders inside, just like they did 50 years ago. And we had a 44-inch Eagle to do it and everything. The problem was the parts that we needed to get shipped to us from Canada, they because of the mail strike, we weren't able to get them in time. So we found a practical way to do a landing anyway. It looks really good. It worked out. But we figured out how to do everything on wires. I think the crew that I had, they were shocked. They were all young guys, and they had never experienced this kind of thing before. So they were all like, well, yeah, okay, but can't we just use CG? Can't we use computers to just erase that? Can't we just? I'm like, no. I think the whole idea here is to get it in camera.
Right.
Like they would have had to do it 50 years ago. It's like we want to see if we can actually film this and make it work, just like they would have done. Brian and Martin and that team back then. How would they have done it? And so it was pretty amazing. So I started like on the fly teaching my crew how to do practical visual effects. And, you know, John Avery, you're out there. You were there with us, and it was quite a thing. I don't think he's ever seen me so focused. It was 2 days of like really grueling 15, 16-hour days. And I kept explaining. We like Todd Morton was there, and he brought his 44-inch Eagle, which you can see on the right side of that there. And that 44, we actually suspended it to we had this lift that was able to kind of bring it up and down the studio. And, and everyone's like, but you can see all the, because that thing weighs like 60 pounds. And we're like, well, how is this? Well, what we did is I told him we can make it work. So we flag it off. So we kept working with these, key lights, and then we put flags up that would block all the wires.
Yeah.
So after working it, getting it there, and then using black velvet to cover the supports and all the armatures that hold the Eagles up, we did it, and they look like they're completely floating in space. It was great.
Wow.
And then we brought in a long dolly, and we were able to basically I explained to my camera guy, he's super talented cinematographer, but he's like, well, how are we going to do this? I said, no, the spaceships don't move. The camera moves. We have a neutral background of black, and we just need to grab the camera and move the camera, right? And then once we started doing it, it was like magic for these guys. It was really cool. They were like,
they never experienced anything like that before.
So they were like, whoa, that's so cool, So once they started seeing it, it was fun. So we got 12 shots done in 2 days, and only one of those 12 shots didn't work, and it was a parallax issue with the camera. We couldn't get the depth to. I was trying to have a shot where there was an eagle on the ground and another eagle flew over the top of it, and we just couldn't make it work at the right. I think if we had more time, we could have pulled it off, but it was. But it was really cool. I mean, and then we trashed an eagle for a crash. It was awesome. It's like we had parts were just flying all over. We shot it at high speed, so it hits, and we actually had the landing gear flying off and stuff. It turned out really cool. So that was a lot of fun, and it was the thing that happened. I think that was exciting about it was we weren't expecting it. We didn't know how it was going to turn out. And then once we started doing it, we were like, this is actually going to work. And so what I did, the one trick I did that's modern was we used the virtual screen, the same screen we used for the Puri scenes and stuff like that. We actually created a lunar landscape.
Okay.
Now with this digital lunar landscape, we could actually change the orientation of the sun. So I could swivel the landscape, change the elevation, change the depth, and then I could change the sun, the position of the sun and everything. And so what I would do is we had this huge tabletop that we built. We kept switching the orientation of the tabletop, and then we'd redress it with, we had all this Fuller's Earth and kitty litter and all these things that create our lunar surface like they did back in the day. We kept adapting that surface to the new lighting regime. So we would change the orientation of lights, change the background, and then we would have a new shot. And we did that multiple times, and everything. So they look like completely different parts of the lunar surface, but we did it.
Lighting is really is almost everything, isn't it, Jeffrey?
Yeah,
When it
yeah,
comes
it
to
is. It is. It
and,
was.
and it's something that you kind of like, you take for granted. And I think there's a shot that I was watching in the footage that you sent to me. I think, and actually it was when you were you're going over your collection. I'll just say that. And it's just that if you shoot it in, I was thinking of how it would be just like under ordinary light, and
Mhm.
there's just something special about how lighting makes things so much more
Oh
effective.
yeah, absolutely,
And I mean,
absolutely.
I'll jump to the original Star Trek series. I mean, especially Jerry Fennerman in the first two seasons of Trek. I mean, the lighting, just with the low key lighting and how they did that. But getting back to the visual effects,
Mhm.
with that, I mean, if you don't have that right, it really it just kind of would give everything away.
Oh, it
But
looks horrible. It could look
yeah,
terrible. And that was the thing, is like I had to explain to these guys, then we had to get it. We had to go get it. I even came with this technique where we figured out, I'm not a big fan of like the JJ Abrams lens flare thing where
no, I'm not either.
okay,
No.
I'm not a fan of that. But if you look at like NASA imagery from the lunar surface, they're quite often where the guys would take a photo or they would shoot something and the sun would just be off the edge of the camera. And so you get this effect. It's called a bokeh, where the sunlight is playing on the actual lens elements in the camera, right?
Right.
And that to me gave us So I figured out how to use both the virtual screen, the landscape, eagle in front, and then place the light in such a way that it would actually hit a little bit in the camera. So we would have the light kind of emulating the sunlight. So it created this really cool effect that they couldn't have done 50 years ago, quite the
Yeah.
same. But I was like, man, that's how we kind of make this ours. So
Right.
it's pretty cool. So yeah.
That
Um,
is really cool.
if you,
John just has a quick comment. He said, "I think the crew was amazed to see the amount of work that went through back in the day to get these types of shots."
yeah. Hmm. Yeah. No, for
Go ahead.
sure.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's good. Yeah. So, I could share a little bit of something if this is like, I mean, just because you're my buddy and you believe in the project and stuff, and we have some fans out there, I'm gonna share a little something that no one's ever seen today.
Okay. Very cool.
It's not finished, but it's actually finished now. But when we put this video together, it wasn't quite finished. So one of the things that happened that's been really cool is we got the rights to the song "Fly Like an Eagle," Steve Miller Band, and we actually made a new version of the song "Fly Like an Eagle" that's in the opening credits of the film, and it's just something you're going to see. And I think it turned out super cool. So you're going to hear the "Fly Like an Eagle" that we created as the background music on a couple shots I'm going to share with you guys. So as a preview, I'm going to let you guys see some of the shots we did. One of the shots we did in the hangar, and I'm also going to let you see a sequence that we did with war games in my office, which I think is kind of fun. And then we can talk about it after we take.
Sounds good.
Okay. Wait 1 second.
Yep. Take your time. Let's see while you're doing that, I'm just going to see if I can catch up on some of the other things. If I missed anybody. Martin commented earlier. He said round two had done fandom proud with their various kits. Oh, it looks.
Is that working?
Yeah.
Okay. Here we
go.
Sorry about that. Okay.
No, you're fine.
Okay. All right. Let's see. We're getting a little bit of a. Let me scroll that back a little bit. Looks like there's a resolution issue.
Nope. No problem.
I want to make sure we have the right resolution.
Yep. It's all good.
Yeah. There we go. All right. Here, one more time. There we go.
Cool.
Oh, yeah, okay. I'll let this go just to this.
Okay.
And I'm going to stop. I'm
There
going to
you
stop.
go. Thanks for sharing that, Jeffrey. That was very, very cool.
So now those segments have voiceovers and stuff in the movie, and everything. But one thing we could show is I wouldn't mind showing the behind the scenes bit of when we did the visual effects. If you guys want to see that, I can show that.
Yeah, definitely.
We can do that. So
okay.
Okay.
I'll wait for you to cue it up.
Okay. All right. One sec. Let's see. Do this again here.
Yep.
All right.
Just sharing one of Andrew's comments.
What did he say?
He said, the physical models to me still look more realistic than computer generated effects. Can't wait to see the in-camera effects. I don't see it.
Oh, you don't see it?
No.
Oh, no. Okay.
I hear it, but I didn't see it.
Okay. One second.
Andrew said, cool stuff. Very realistic.
Wait a minute. What are we? Okay, let's see here. Hold on. Did it? Okay, wait a minute. Oh, that's my problem. Okay.
Here we go.
Sorry about that. Okay.
Oh.
All right, here we go. All right. Yeah, we were in that infinity zone.
Yeah. There we go.
All right. Yeah.
This type of filmmaking is complicated.
Yeah.
But the results, you can get exactly what you want from camera. That's really amazing.
Yeah, no, it is. And the scale and the scope of what we've been able to put together with your background and everything, it's really awesome stuff. It's like it's the combination of landscape, being the quality it is, and the fact that you could match it up and everything. So was it helpful at all when I sent you the references, the learner references?
Absolutely. Like when I'm designing environments, it's a really good idea to try and build off of reference and give yourself a general art direction. You can get a sense of color, scale, shapes, composition. Even like when they make movies, right? They start with concept art.
Right.
They start with a reference
Right.
for how they're going to build their shot and their art direction. So absolutely, that helped out quite a bit.
In the context of the kind of stuff you typically do, how does this fit? You know what I mean? The kind of things you guys have been doing with the XR wall, is this pretty different for you? You know what I mean? Doing miniature type.
I think seeing miniatures and working with miniatures that's brand new to me. Seeing that we're making something seem a lot grander and bigger, and it's cool to see like the balancing act between the on-set elements, the tabletop environment that's been made, the miniature models, the camera and what it's seeing in its perspective and its motion in relation to the background wall. That's like old style way of filmmaking, and it's coming around full circle into like the most brand new way of filmmaking.
Yeah.
And those like worlds are colliding together.
Yeah. Go totally old school and totally new school at the same time.
Right.
Yeah. Very cool.
Very cool.
That's it.
Whoops, let me get that out.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
I like that, especially at the end too, when you have the one eagle you seeing in the background and then the other in the forefront. That was a nice touch. But more importantly, though, just discussing the discussion about doing these type of effects as opposed to what is really being done now with the CGI. So this must have been a totally different experience. It was cool to see how he had it had the storyboards too, which is what they did back in the day.
Yeah, we put together. John and I actually did those storyboards in advance. We actually put those storyboards together. Actually, John did it, so John, I picked all these photos. John went and John Avery built the storyboard for us with the elements and everything. So actually, we printed that and brought those out, which let us actually show and share, what the with the crew, right? And so if you looked at it, you could see how close we got the lighting to match, and everything, which was really cool. So it was once people caught on, we got through it, and we did a great job. It worked.
Great job with that, John, too. That was pretty nice.
Yeah.
Just posting the comments again. Andrew said cool stuff, very realistic.
Thanks.
Also, old is new again, interesting.
Yep.
And Nancy said thanks for sharing these clips, Jeffrey.
Absolutely. Yeah. Now we have a movie. We have a heck of a movie. So we do.
It's all coming together, and here we go. And I have a few more clips too to show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there's just some of the behind the scenes. There, me with the kids.
Oops, I'm sorry, different.
Oh, it's okay. Yeah, I made the kids, me with Jan. Some of the other stuff we did behind the scenes at Wonderfest, Nick. Yeah, so there's just it's Brian's there. Yeah, so those are kind of cool. Yep. And then I think I sent you a few stills that you could just So that's I let you guys see a little bit of that clip. That's just the beginning of a sequence where that's what gets us in. We thought it was kind of fun to play like we put them to scale first off, which is something you've never seen before.
No.
And we're like, where do we put it? And it's like, well, let's put it on like some kind of cool looking showroom floor kind of thing, which I think looks really cool, so. And you guys also got a taste of what we're doing with the music in the film, and it's pretty cool. It's pretty contemporary approach, to this, and it's very. We've tried to very high quality. We've spent. I just was running over the budget. We spent over $800,000 in this movie so far.
Wow.
Yeah, and between my private investors and my wife and I, and different people, we pulled this together. I've had a small handful of private investors. And we also did a couple of those crowdfunding. The crowdfunding, we've raised about $50,000 of that, but the bulk of it was myself and my investors who put the money in. So, yeah, but that's what it's not a cheap thing to do something at this quality level, So
no, not at all.
Yeah.
Oh, and I'm going to share this one, and this is what we were seeing. We were actually seeing the video for that, which was really cool.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. Yeah, it might be CG, but I still like it. I think it's I think it's really cool. And honestly, in today's day and age, that's just how you do it, and everything.
Yeah.
Now, if I had the time and the budget, but we probably would have had to spend another $100,000 or something and have several weeks to, it probably cost at least $100,000 plus setting up and doing this. It would probably be a month of setup to do those effect shots and everything composite together. I can't imagine how much that would cost. So miniatures are. There's a reason why people do things with CG. It's like it just you've got more control of it, and it's. But I prefer miniatures, and if I were making a remake of Space 1999, I definitely would incorporate miniatures with CG. I wouldn't rely solely on CG. But I think if you go back to that shot, the thing I feel really confident about, like if you look at the eagles on, I still feel like we got a tangibility there that you just don't get. And there's things we're doing that they couldn't have done 50 years ago, like the CG, like that laser beam. If you look very closely, you can see on the eagle behind it, you can see the reflection that light is shining on the eagle. When the laser fires, you can see it on that actually rims both of the other eagles, right? That's the kind of stuff that was so difficult to do back then, and everything, right? So that's the part. You can create an environment and actually do it. And so I'm going to give a lot of credit to Tobias Richter and the Lightworks for what they did on these effect shots. They built these models of the eagle and the hawk from scratch. completely built those things to detail. And we had Chris Trice give advice on the Eagle, which was cool, to make sure it was accurate. And I think we did a great job. I'm very proud of it. So yeah. And then what else do we have for pictures? Let's see. Yeah. So there was that.
In that photo, it's almost like you're touching history.
Yeah, that's what I felt. It's like I love those cargo containers so much when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I thought they were so cool, and we built 2 of them for this shoot. And the thing that's so cool about that background, we can fly around in there and go all over the place. Like I could definitely show like ITV or someone like how we could make a TV series, because it literally looked like the rover. You could walk over and get in it. It was crazy what we did with it. So yeah, but we built those elements, and actually I told Todd that I'm going to give you guys one of those for Wonderfest, that they can have one of them. And so
nice,
which is kind of cool. So yeah, so that we got those made. They're sitting in my garage, which is so yeah. And then let's see what else. Yes, and then we our remake of Puri. So yeah, which turned out really, really, really cool. And you've seen a little bit of that clip and what it looks like. What was your impression of it?
I thought it was really cool. I thought it was a nice homage to Keith Wilson's work, a nice nod. And it's the futurist. It's Puri as it would be today.
Right.
And that's the whole point. And as far as my takeaway from what you were trying to do with that.
Yeah.
And it represents that. And it's the fact that you're like walking through it and you're taking it in, and it's an you're absorbing the moment, which is definitely conveyed.
Yeah, which is cool. So yeah. Did I send you? Oh yeah, and then there's this one little, and there's our cartoon Alan Carter that we did for the opening credits. I just thought it'd be fun for you guys to see that.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah. So yeah.
Nancy said, "I love the car." Okay, the car, and then May said, "Puri looks amazing."
Thanks. Yeah.
And Ruby's asking, "Did Tobias Richter work on Star Trek Phase 2?"
Yes, I think he did. Yeah, I think so.
Let's see, and then I wanted to direct folks to the website too, Jeffrey, just so that they know that they can get informational updates there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's www.eagledocumentary.com.
Yep.
Missy's saying cartoon Alan is adorable.
Oh, cool. Yeah. So you guys are getting a little taste of the scope of what we've created for this and what we're doing. But like I said, I think it's going to blow people away when they see it. So
no, I appreciate you sharing all that. The photos that you sent, and then as well as the video, because that was nice that folks got to get a taste of that. So thank you for doing that.
Yep.
That was very much appreciated, and it looks amazing. Also, I want to direct folks to your website too, Jeffrey. And again, this is in regards to productions that you're working on as well, which is www.futuredude.com.
Yep. Thanks, Roy.
Yeah, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of Walter Cronkite, this is something I started doing about maybe a year and a half ago. But what I'll do is I'll kind of take the date of different things that were taking place. I'm actually going back to 1976, but for the folks that remember watching the CBS Evening News, at the end of the news, he would say, that's the way it was. So with that saying, today being January 26th in 1976, just a couple of tidbits. The top movies in January of 76 were Dog Day Afternoon, The Adventures of the Wilderness Family, and The Sunshine Boys. And then in regards to songs, Do You Know Where You're Going To, the theme from Mahogany, sung by Diana Ross, as well as I Write the Songs by Barry Manilow were 2 popular songs. And the other thing I want to, which is Space 1999 related, and definitely with the Eagle too, is that production today was the first day of production of Space 1999 Year 2 episode The Metamorph back on January 26th of 1976. So just thought I would share that tidbit of information.
Cool.
And let's see, comments coming in here. Let me see here. Andrew said the cargo containers were so Space 1999 specific. Love them.
Yeah.
Jenny's commenting saying, hey, Star Trek got a cartoon series, maybe a Space 1999 cartoon.
Yeah.
And let's see. Corey's out there. Hey, Corey. And he said, when will the film be released and in which format?
Well, we're going theatrical in North America for sure. It's definitely made at a quality level that can be shown in the theater. So the first bit, it'll be finished in April. We're going to do a sneak peek of it, the whole movie at Wonderfest in Louisville in June. But then I think the world premiere will probably be at the Toronto International Film Festival in September. And then, but it'll be, 4K Blu-ray. It'll be, we're hoping that this thing will end up on, we're targeting Netflix, Amazon, or HBO for it, and everything. So, and again, the quality level, what we got, we should be able to attain that. So that's what I'm hearing.
Gotcha. Now, and also the Tribeca Film Festival too, right, Jeffrey?
Yeah, that Tribeca is going to be, we're going to be doing we're not going to do any sort of, that's not going to be the release, but we're going to do like a panel thing there, that'll get with industry insiders and stuff. Right. So, the whole film would have had to be done in January for us to make it for Tribeca in June. And we're not going to make that. It's just, once we shot the stuff in early December, that changed our schedule
Gotcha.
but it was worth it. Yeah.
Oh, definitely. From what we've seen and everything. Definitely.
One last thing I want to also say about those visual effects shots is it was kind of forgiving. Back then they were shooting with 16 millimeter and stuff, and was being shown on broadcast television. It was literally, over the airwaves, right? And the quality, in terms of what the resolution was, it was very forgiving, right? You can even see, I'm sure you've noticed this, like on the Blu-rays of Space 1999, you can see wires sometimes on the Eagles, because they were just never meant, Brian's actually talked about the frustration about that those shots were never meant to be seen in some super high def format, that whatever. And so the reason why I'm bringing it up is that was one of the challenges we had to overcome, is that we're shooting with these super high definition cameras that are widescreen format and that was a very, very different, that was a challenge too. Does that make sense? It's like,
it totally makes sense.
That is a challenge of shooting with today's technology. So that was part of it too.
Brian was on the show, and it's hard to believe it's almost 4.5 years already, but he was on in June of 2020 when I first started doing the show, and discussed that. And he was saying that the show was never intended to be in high definition or Blu-ray. So it's like when folks would comment saying that they can see the wires and everything, it's like that's not fair, you know what I mean? Because when it was filmed,
it wasn't meant to be seen like this nowadays.
Right.
Thing. And of course, these companies putting out these editions of these Blu-rays and stuff, they're not going to go spend the money to bring back and go to the original negative and clean up the wires and all that kind of thing. Maybe you could do a special edition episode or something where you do like some effects cleanup or something.
Right.
But yeah.
Like it was a one-off or something like that.
One-off. But I can imagine doing 48 episodes and you're completely cleaning up 40 episodes. I mean, it's like that's a massive undertaking, and it's very expensive. So,
no, I can only imagine. But with that, but I want to thank you, Jeffrey, for joining us today. I really appreciate you taking the time to be on the show, and letting the folks have a peek. And everything's going to be coming full circle, so to speak, with coming out and timing out with everything. So thank you for that.
Absolutely. No, and I appreciate your support of the project. I mean, obviously we've been friends for several years, and you've been a really great sort of foundational supporter of what we've been trying to do and create, and it matters a lot. So I want to thank you for everything you've done to both encourage, support, to promote all that. You've been an incredible resource and supporter of what we're doing. So I want to thank you for that. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Jeffrey. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. No, absolutely. All right. Well, cool.
Right.
Any final questions too?
Yeah. If there's any final questions, folks,
answer any question you got if you want to hit us with it real quick.
Yeah, I'm just taking a look at the comments. Jay saying thank you. Can't wait to see the finished product. May saying very exciting. Thank you, Jeffrey. And thank you, Jeffrey. Thank you very much from Missy. And Ruby, thank you. Looks outstanding. And then also Missy said, Eagle 4 equipped with additional booster units. Yahoo. Nancy's saying thank you as well too.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Oh, one last comment coming through from Andrew. I still would rather see the Blu-rays, even though you can see some faults. They're awesome.
Yes, they are. They
Yeah.
are. They're great. Yeah.
So,
yeah, cool.
well, thank you, everyone, and thank you, Jeffrey. I'm going to go to the shout-outs portion, so I'll let you go, Jeffrey. But thank you, and I'll connect with you soon.
All right, thanks, Roy. Take care. Have a good evening.
Take care. You too.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye. Well, I just want to thank everybody for tuning in. It was wonderful to have Jeffrey back on the show to talk about the Eagle Obsession. So definitely stay tuned. Some very, very cool stuff coming up. And just seeing some of the comments coming through. And thanks. You're welcome, Bill. I'm glad you enjoyed it. And yeah, you'll be at Wonderfest. Very cool. So I am going to go to the shout out portion. I'm going to kind of go through these really quickly just to put them out there. And just want to give a shout out to my friend Bill Scarrato at Country Gate Theater. And Country Gate is at Belvedere, New Jersey. Just to let everybody know, there is a murder mystery that is going to be coming up shortly. And that is going to be February 8th. And if you are in the Harmony, Belvedere, New Jersey area and you'd be interested in attending, you can call for tickets at 610-248-7285. And it is Murder at the Bingo Hall. So stay tuned in regards to that. And there'll be information. And you can also visit the website, which is www.countrygate.org and then www.billscarrato.com. Also, shout out to Mike and Mary Beth for Sci-Fi Distilled. They're on Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. So they're going to be discussing the top 10 ships of Star Trek. So stay tuned for that. That'll be this Wednesday. My friends Mike and Mary Beth. Also, my friend Captain Phil from Captain Phil's Planet, WUSB 90.1 FM, Stony Brook, New York. The captain's schedule is on alternating Thursdays from 4 to 5 p.m. And then he's on Friday nights. And that is from 9 to 11:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then also I want to give a shout out to my friend Lou, who's also out there, Lou Place. He just released his latest movie called Found in Space. It's the latest film by Lou Place. Lou, if you want to put the URL in, folks can watch this film on YouTube. It is available to stream. So definitely check that out. And then also we were talking about the Star Trek Original Series set tour where Jeffrey had met with William Shatner last year. William Shatner is coming back to the set tour, and he will be up in Ticonderoga, New York, June 27th and 28th. For information, you can go to www.startrektour.com. If you've never been there, you're definitely going to want to check it out. Again, what James Cawley has done with the set tour is amazing. It is like stepping back into Desilu Studios from 1966 to 1969. So definitely check that out. And of course, you get to meet William Shatner, the captain, who is definitely going strong. Also want to give a shout out to the podcast that I do with my friend Warren Friedrich. In fact, it's we just discussed Death's Other Dominion, the year one episode, episode 14. We are going through the list of Space 1999 episodes, and it was just released as of today. So definitely check that out. You can listen to that on YouTube. And again, it is Space 1999, this episode. And then also I want to give a quick shout out to my son, Ryan, for Run by Ryan, Empower Your Run with online coaching. And he's a service provider. It is free to subscribe. If you want to go to the next level, you can definitely do that. His website is www.runbyryan.com. And also a shout out to Martha for Studio One Thrift. Martha has a physical store location now, which is in the Stroudsburg area if you're in Pennsylvania. And for website information, you can go to www.studioonethrift.com. She has quality, stylish, affordable clothing for both men and women. You can receive styling tips and information updates, but you just need to make sure to subscribe. And again, that's Studio One Thrift. And also want to give a shout out to my friend and my co-host, Mr. Ross Amico. Ross has 3 shows that he does over the weekends. The first being Picture Perfect, which is on Fridays at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The second is Sweetness and Light, which is on Saturdays at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And the third is The Lost Chord, which is on Saturdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The URL to listen to these shows is kwax.uoregon.edu. Again, that's kwax.uoregon.edu. And speaking of Ross and I will be back this coming Friday. We're going to we've been concentrating a lot in the 80s, and we've done actually we did something that was actually in the 90s, but we are going to go back to the 1950s, folks, and we're going to talk about the classic When Worlds Collide, the classic 1951 film, which is actually 74 years old this year. So we will be discussing that this coming Friday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and that will be When Worlds Collide. So with that, hope everyone enjoyed the show. Again, a pleasure to have Jeffrey on. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave comments in the chat section. And it was wonderful having everybody out there. I would ask, if you have not subscribed to the show on YouTube, please do so. There is no charge associated with that. And if you have not liked or followed on the show's Facebook page, which is Roy's Tie-Dye Sci-Fi Corner, please do so with that as well. There is no cost associated with that as well. Again, thank you, everybody. Appreciate everybody hanging in there out there. And until next time, as I always like to say, live long and prosper. Take care and have a good week. Bye-bye.